As far back as recorded history, people have been enthralled by the horror genre. From the ancient legends of devils and malevolent spirits, through to the folk tales of witches and vampires, stories designed to scare its audience have been a foundational pillar of fiction. The same applies to role-playing games. Horror settings in games like Call of Cthulhu, Aliens the RPG, and Dungeons & Dragons build an atmosphere of dread for the players to explore and get a delightful fright as they delve deeper. But how does a game master manufacture that sense of dread in their own adventures? In a world where the players are epic heroes that can punch through boulders and blast anything that moves with a roasting ball of fire, presenting a monster to fight in front of that group is not going to elicit a sense of fear regardless of how many claws or teeth it may have. So today I want to highlight 4 elements of horror that game masters can utilize to shape their sessions. In the following video, I'll demonstrate these elements by creating the bones of a Dungeons & Dragons horror adventure that you can follow as an example. The first element is environmental impact. While the players may be heroes that can go toe-to-toe with legendary monsters, the rest of the world is typically not. The devastating impact a ferocious monster can have on the environment around it is a crucial factor in storytelling. Whether it be the gruesome massacre of an entire village, or even shattered trees left in its wake, presenting evidence of why these monsters are feared helps form the frightening setting that the adventurers are entering. The presence of a horrific monster can also be demonstrated by its effect on other creatures living nearby. Imagine a party of adventurers traveling along the road in the middle of a forest, when suddenly a deer bolts out from the bushes and sprints past the group without giving them a glance. Reacting, the players draw their weapons, preparing to fight. A few moments pass when they hear the sounds of an animal crying nearby. Moving slowly to investigate, the heroes discover the whimpering coming from a bulky owlbear cowering underneath a rocky outcrop. Only then do the players hear the flapping of massive wings overhead. In this example, we've built up the sense of danger that the players are walking into through the monster's impact on the lesser monsters around it. Environmental impact can likewise be shown when interacting with the lore of your game. Village folklore warning their children of demonic child snatchers deep within the woods. A poster displaying an abandoned bounty of a terrifying creature. An annual ceremony where a city offers up a single member of the community as sacrifice to a tyrannical dragon in exchange for a year of mercy. These are all examples of demonstrating the impact a monster can have on the world around it and why the player's interaction with it is important. The second element of horror is the unknown. As players continue to partake in a particular game, the more familiar they become with the numerous monsters and threats that game provides. If the adventurers are told that a chimera is attacking local farmers in the area, and will be here soon, then the players will simply prepare to fight said chimera. By providing sensory hints about the monster without completely revealing its identity, the game master can build up a mystery that escalates as the confrontation approaches. Sentences like, "You can hear the crunching of bones coming from the roof," or "A large silhouette, too long to be humanoid, quickly flashes across the windows," can feed the imagination of your players to fear what unknown monstrosity is upon them. This element plays on the human nature to fear unpredictability. When faced with uncertainty, people become anxious and desperately search for answers, even if discovery leads to punishment. In the case of unknown monsters lurking within the party, players will risk exposing themselves to danger if it means gaining a clear understanding of what monster they are dealing with. Until the monster's identity is revealed, the player's mind will be racing, imagining all kinds of horrifying possibilities. Observe the characteristics of the monster you're trying to create a sense of dread for. Its size, how it attacks, how it moves, the sounds it makes, what it eats. These are all clues you can sprinkle throughout the encounter to create a menacing monster. The third element I want to discuss is stalking. Throughout many tabletop RPGs, the players will encounter a monster, fight it, slay it, and celebrate their victory. In this approach, regardless of how powerful or how menacing the monster appears, there hasn't been enough time dedicated to forming a sense of foreboding for the characters to truly fear the creature. However, if the players are told, with your passive perception, you're able to discern that you are being watched, or that, listening to the cracking of twigs and leaves as your party wanders through the woods, you realize another set of footprints is following you. The encounter is transformed. For inspiration, let's take a look at one of the most terrifying birds known to man, vultures. Adapting to a feast or famine scavenging lifestyle, vultures can go for long periods without food. Their eyesight is well developed, as is their sense of smell. Most importantly for this discussion, they rarely descend upon live animals. Vultures are patient predators, waiting until their prey is too hapless to fight back before they swoop down to devour their meal. Applying this idea to tabletop monsters, rather than multiple rounds of combat fighting until the death, a creature that ambushes the party before disappearing, slowly chipping away at the party's health and resolve, will be more effectively terrifying for both the characters and the players. Encountering a dragon that releases a breath attack before immediately vanishing, followed later by a troop of kobolds ambushing the party as they set up camp for the night while the dragon swoops overhead. Then continued the next day with the dragon diving in to attack the party as they hike up a mountain, will develop a sense of foreboding threat as the party journeys in the dragon's domain. This also applies to witches and spirits that can affect the party from a distance, letting their presence be felt throughout the entire adventure. The final element I want to touch on is the safe space. In numerous works of horror fiction, the hero is given a space where they can take a reprieve from the horror that hunts them, whether this be the sanctity of a temple, a fortified castle, or a cabin in the woods. The hero is relieved to be informed of an area that the monster cannot enter. This momentary relief of safety enhances the eventual dread that befalls the hero when they find themselves no longer in the safe area. The subconscious option to flee back to a place where the protagonist knows the monster cannot harm them feeds into their panic, debating on how to handle the fight or flight encounter. A classic example of this would be the rule that vampires cannot enter a residence uninvited. As long as the targets stay within the confines of the house, they are guaranteed safe.
Can we come in?
Yeah, come in.
However, if one of the residents accidentally ends up locked outside the house, they become exposed to the whim of the vampire closely watching them. This fear can also be produced if the players discover that the perceived safe zone is no longer safe. In the case of the vampire, if a resident accidentally invites the vampire inside, the entire household is put in danger. If the players are crawling through a small cave system to avoid the reach of a dragon, Accidentally slipping and landing in an open canyon exposed to the sky with the next crawl space 100 feet away, the encounter is now a panic-driven situation. Utilizing any of these 4 elements into the flow of a Game Master's horror adventure will help intensify the threat that their monster presents. I hope you found this breakdown insightful, and tune in to the next video where I apply each of these elements to create a Dungeons & Dragons horror adventure based on this incredible illustration by Dean Spencer. Thank you.